And the third topic of the big four is sex. And oh my, does it send blood pressure up? It sends emotions and fears and memories and hatred and anger, and also passion and love and good memories. Brings all of those things to the surface very, very quickly. What happens when you meet that person, or you see that person in a restaurant or down the street, or you're introduced to them in a conference or wherever you are, and something moves inside of you? Not lust. We're not talking about lust here, but we're talking about that spark, that I want to know that person. What is it that creates the intrigue? What is it that says, who is that person? Why do I want to know them? Why do they sound and feel familiar? Have I met them before? Why do I feel comfortable with them? And you want to know more. You want to know why. What is that love at first sight? How do you know? It's definitely doesn't come from the outside. It's something inside. And like everything that is real and true, the highest, it comes from the inside. Well, I should take that back. Not everything that comes from the inside is the highest. But that's where I'm going with this particular dialogue. The great love story that are about the great love of someone's life, the twin flames, the passion that has always been there. Well, we always know that a real relationship has its ups and downs. It goes through the highs of the beginning, and then as the familiarity comes in, it wanes and changes some. And sometimes it breaks completely. And other times it comes back. And as one grows and evolves and refines, and the other grows and evolves and refines, or not, love and passion change. And so does the act of sex. Because the act of sex is not, it is the physical, but it is not the physical. Just the physical is lust, or power, or control, or demands, or whatever that might be. That is not what I am talking about. And that is not what we should strive for, because that is where, sadly, in the last umpteen decades or centuries, most specifically since the power of television and advertising and movies have taken over the airwaves, sex has been put into a place of a subject of control, of fear, of violence, of manipulation, of this one is higher and better and more powerful than the other, and so therefore you are my charge. You are my possession. I can do with you as I choose. So how do you reconcile it within yourself? Like everything else, we have to know ourselves, and that is an evolutionary process. Who you know yourself as at 20 is very different to 30, and then ever different to 40, 50, and 60. And it's usually not until you get after 60 do you start to actually see yourself from a very different vantage point. And your views of all topics, and most specifically sex, begins to refine in ways that the others cannot. Because this refinement is one of the most amazing journeys that can be taken as you go through life. You can't see it back then. When I began writing about money, power, sex, and death, and it turned into a mini theatre production, it was much easier to share the perspectives or come up with the antidotes to money and to power. I was 61 when I started writing and producing about these four topics, and the money and the power That was, that was okay to work on. And then we get to sex. And it was like, wow, that is not my strongest suit. Meaning that I was not one of the most popular. I was, per se, innocent but not. Inexperienced but not. I was cautious but not. I think, and these apply to everybody as we are growing and learning and seeing ourselves through our own lens of experiences as we go through the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then into the 60s. I would never, ever, ever have conceived of who and what I would learn after 60, about life, about love, about myself. And I had been on this journey a long time, and it was always getting to a place of understanding who I am now. Was I ready at 50, 51? Heavens no. At 41, I was still learning. So anyone who thinks their life is over when they get to 60, you are so very, very wrong. If you give yourself a chance and you look at the world as a stepping stone into wisdom, and each decade becomes a greater stepping stone into that wisdom, then you will marvel if you allow yourself. You will marvel at what you learn, most specifically about yourself and about other people and your relationship to them and the greater world. This is beyond anything the greatest gift that I have been given in these times, because it makes everything fit into place. It's sort of like a sexual... I prefer the word sensual, because that is really what sex is about. It's a sensual experience. And the anagram I was given for sex is senses engaging ecstasy. Just take it in. That is what sex is. It is not the physical act, and that's it. It is the building up, it is the awakening, it is the touching of those senses that becomes the experience. Now, where do you first learn these senses? Nature is an amazing teacher. Because you go out into nature, you go out onto the land or onto the sea or for walks, whatever part of nature draws you anytime. And it's a beautiful day. Or it's a crazy, windy, rainy day. If you allow your senses to tap into the energetic frequency of what the environment and the weather is showing you, they're the senses that awaken. And the more you can allow those senses to awake and awaken within, to touch the organic parts of the universe, of the world and natural world around us, your heightened awareness of self also amplifies. For quite a few years early on, it was when I was actually writing this piece, this was at the beginning in 2011. I was up on Mount Shasta what I thought was for a couple of days, and it ended up being 7 weeks, and this is where I wrote this piece. But after that, for 4 different years in the summers, for 3 to 4 or 5 months at a time, I was put out or strongly suggested I go and camp. Let me put it that way. And I camped on the land, up on the mountain, down down by the rivers, back in the backwoods, sometimes 10 miles out of town, by myself, the vast majority of the time. I didn't know why, but I knew that I was being required to do this. This land also became my art studio. I had never really painted in my life. My mother was the artist. But I was shown to get canvas and paints and put my table out, and I would sit there. And the land and the environment would awaken, and I would look at something. The paints would be there, the canvas is there. I saw the beginning, and I saw the end of a painting. How the rest got on the page, I do not know. It just evolved because they became more and more complicated. And like, how did I know this? But I was allowing the intimacy of the land to touch my senses, to allow these feelings, these emotions, this knowledge to come through. And it was through this that I started to truly understand. When I was given the word sex is the other senses engaging the ecstasy, is that this is what it's about. That I'm engaging with myself in the ecstasy of creating and birthing something. And in this case, it was paintings. And in that case, it was also, I was doing readings and art for relationships. I started off with my grandchildren and their parents, and then went to other people and other families. And I would create these charts on the relationships of couples and families and greater families, and weave them all together and show them their relationships. And it was based on the Mayan 13 moon destiny seals that came through by Jose Arguelles. And I still do them. And they are incredibly powerful because it's through the senses of the natural world that became heightened, that I could see and feel and go beyond what was visible or knowable in the moment. I attribute this sensitivity to the senses being engaged in an ecstasy of revelation, of awareness, of awakening, of touching the very essence of life force. Where it resided within me? Everywhere or nowhere. How it came through? No idea. But yes, I do know. That's the magic. Now, why am I diverting here? Because, oh my gosh, it has everything to do with sex. If we engage in the natural organic world, in seeing and observing the bees with the flowers, the insects, the animals, of all types, large and small, when we're privileged to witness them mating in their environment. And in a sense, it's a natural thing to go, oh, we shouldn't be watching this. This is private. But of course, our curiosity will not allow that to happen. We have to watch. We have to observe what and how and why and where. And it is never anything like what is known and has turned into generally the human experience. In the beauty of it, yes, but not in the other side of it. And we have got lost through brainwashing, through manipulation, through media stimulation, and getting the wrong perspective through absolutely the abusive perceptions of the church, no matter which denomination or